It is time now to review headlines of today's newspapers.
All right, Abby. So we go straight into it, as usual, leading with the newspaper of record this day on Saturday, where we have the lead story at Dubai Expo 2020. Yeah. Buhari tasked world leaders on partnership to stem COVID-19. With the rider, the federal government refuses to restrict inbound travelers over Omicron, approves vaccine booster jabs. PCR test now to be done 48 hours before departure. I mean, interesting things. I mean, Omicron is changing the whole algorithm of the COVID thing,
yes.
you know.
Yes.
And for those, you know, for the vaccinated who have thought, oh, we'll have some respite, maybe the 50,400 naira tests, you know, going, coming, depending on the country you are going, could be 3 times or 4 times, will go. But with Omicron now, I mean, it looks like they will probably,
far away.
They will probably, you know, increase.
Yes. On the side of the booster jabs, yes, you know, that's refreshing news to many people. But of course, you just hit the nail on the head on something the cost of traveling. Yeah, I mean, when you look at the vaccination,
the cost and the stress,
it's really a huge toll.
Yeah. Yeah.
On travelers I mean, and I understand the importance of, I mean, it doesn't go without, you know, everyone's knowledge. We all know the importance of it.
No pain, no gain.
Yes, but many also argue that should the government actually carry this cost? Is it something that we should be carrying? I mean, you go to Accra, you pay $50, I mean, a couple of dollars for your...
For the test.
Yes, and I mean, the cost is...
No, but you pay for your test here too.
Yes, you do, but it's not the same cost. You multiply that by a few...
But then the booster shot that the federal government is approving here, it's interesting how that will pan out. Less than barely 6% of Nigerians have had the 2 vaccinations. So when the new one comes, are we saying that those 6 people will also now struggle to first have their own booster jabs?
That's such an important question.
Such
an important question, because many people are still either not vaccinated or partially
vaccinated. The majority from the figures from the federal government itself says only 3.5% have had one jab. And barely 6% have had 6% have had the first dose, and then barely 3.5% have had. So the booster jabs will go to who? Because it's the same vaccine. You know, 95% of the population is waiting to take their first jab, and then boosters. Let's see. Such
a conundrum. It really is, because yes, on the one hand, I mentioned earlier, it's refreshing to know that you can actually, for those who have been fully vaccinated, you can get the booster jabs. But you know, we go back to, is that the priority right now? What about those who don't even, have access to it or know about it?
If it will have any effect on Omicron? WHO says booster jabs cannot be right when the rest of the world is still struggling to have, their primary, jabs and everything. But let's see how it goes.
Yeah, I think it goes back to what you said earlier about data as well. We need to wait on that and basically know what the right course of action is.
Sure. On top of the lead story there, ISWAP attacks military in Iran. Malam Fatori, 2 senior officers killed. Sad one that ISWAP is still wreaking havoc on the populace. On top of the masthead investigation, Nembe oil spill exaggerated, largely contained. That will be found on page 5 of this day today. And on the window, Arise Fashion Week lights up Dubai with spectacular runway music. President hails show for showcasing Nigeria's style, arts to the world.
Yes.
But of course, if you tie that to the cover picture, where you have D'banj, the star musician, the chairman of Arise and This Day Group, British supermodel Naomi Campbell, and Senegalese-born American superstar Akon, both of whom D'banj and Akon performed at the show. It shows clearly that this is an important news item,
Really
not only for the This Day and Arise group, but also for Nigeria as far as fashion and entertainment
Absolutely,
is concerned.
yes. It's been a melting pot, and not just, generally not just this year. Of course, this is happening against the backdrop of the Dubai Expo, which has been another really amazing, platform.
Absolutely.
And incredible work that has gone into making this a spectacular event.
Yes.
It's brought, cultures and creatives and different, forms of art from across the world.
Yeah.
But of course, it wouldn't go without talking about Arise, the Arise Fashion Week as well, which of course has been year on year, been able to bring a melting pot of creatives together and celebrate them and showcase their talents to the world. So very laudable.
The sheer consistency of the Arise Fashion, show and the selling Nigeria, through that brand, through the ingenuity of the Nigerian, fashion divas, etc. I think is just commendable.
It's really very noteworthy.
It is. Last but not the least, on this day is NSAS Peace Walk. 60 NGOs stand with Sanwo-Olu, basically saying that the governor will not walk alone, as those who oppose the peace walk, seem to be saying.
Well, that's
see, just like
good
we
news
said.
too.
Exactly.
We will have to wait and see what happens there.
Or not. All right. Yeah. Which paper would you like to take next?
So, let's have a look at the Saturday Vanguard here.
Okay.
Very interesting headline here, Steve. Kano political mishap threatens Tinubu. Of course, you probably were more versed on this. But it's interesting to see what the turnout and basically how this continues to unfold. What is your take on this headline?
I think that the Vanguard, the Vanguard or the editor, whoever packaged this, is just trying to cash in on the one hand, the 2023 agitations, who should pick the ticket or not, and of course what is happening in Kano. It will be harsh to conclude that the APC in Kano is imploding, but then it looks like there are two warring factions: the faction of the president, of the governor, Ganduje, and the other faction, which seems to be winning as far as the law court is concerned. And you can see from what has been reported in the last couple of days, arson, burning the headquarters of the opposition, in quotes, still within the same party, barring the lawyer of the opposition, from attending to this and that. So I think Vanguard is trying to say that if it looks like the APC faction loyal to the governor of Kano State is losing, given the fact that Kano State governor seems to be an Asiwaju Tinubu person, for him not to have Kano behind him totally will send some very negative signals to his presidential ambition. Because
Steve, I tell you, real-life telenovela unfolding right before our eyes. And I agree with you, the editor knew what he was doing right here.
He does, he does.
Really knew what
Which
was
is the
going on.
point of why you even drew attention to it.
Absolutely.
Like many people will be interested in what's happening. If he does not have Kano, and it continues to look like Ganduje is not able to hold APC in Kano, then that will be a major challenge for the aspiration of who has not declared, by the way, but everybody knows that he's very much interested, and if you like, absolutely qualified to aspire to be the president of the country.
True, and I mean, we could basically throw out a few, feelers as to what could possibly happen, but then again, time will tell. We have to wait and see how this unfolds.
Yes.
Over here, we've got Lagos shut school, and we had this conversation earlier. Father opens up, Nigerians react. Of course, this is in relation to the Darwin College students. That
the unfortunate death of the 12-year-old boy.
Absolutely. And of course, every news platform has carried this. Absolutely. It speaks volumes.
It would be irresponsible not to carry it, because this is the story. It touches the heart, and it's a call to action, just like we discussed earlier, for government to be proactive and to use this as a deterrent so that we don't have to record this sort of unfortunate incident in our schools again. When you release your word to school authorities, what's it called? Where the students will have to sleep in school, and live.
Board.
Exactly. you're trusting, you're paying for it, but then you're trusting that the school authorities will look after, your child. But if this kind of a thing happens and you are not getting the sort of explanation that ought to come from them, then we have to be worried. And it is interesting and it is courageous, commendable even, that the state government is saying that we have to go into this and get to the bottom of it.
We really do have to be worried. And it makes me think, we spoke about it earlier. And we, of course, the school authorities have denied any knowledge of this happening. And it doesn't sound like something that started happening just yesterday. It sounds like this has been carrying on for a while.
From accounts that we have had, it looks like the issue of bullying,
it
seems to be regular, in that school, and parents
and possibly
will have to be worried.
And a number of schools as well. But the fact that the authorities have absolutely no knowledge about it, is it something that they should take any blame for? I'm curious to see what your take is on that.
Definitely.
Or is it something that is just enshrouded in this, where, it happens, bullying is something that the students will not disclose? Because apparently the boy was actually not even going to confess for a while.
Yeah.
Basically to say that this is what has been happening.
The first person that you have to take their submission seriously will be those of the parents and those of the school. School is saying we're not aware of certain things to this extent. The parents who took over the medical management, the hospital management of the son till he passed on, are saying that this is what he said to us, and this is what we noticed, and that if in confronting the school with it, not only did they deny, they came up with an allegedly spurious excuse, which has now been debunked by the turn of events. So who is culpable? The law will determine that clearly. But we have precedents here and there, given what has happened before. And on the school matter that I made reference to, that I didn't want to mention the school, clearly, not only can the school as an entity be liable, but even individuals, be they teachers, if they found out that they were neglectful in their conduct, and specific names that were mentioned, they can be tried in what are they called? A children's court or something like that, and possibly be sentenced. Because if it is established that the actions that certain individuals took led to the death of this person, I'm not sure that any school will want such people around until it is established that they have been purged of that bullying, antisocial, conduct.
Right, and there should also be repercussions. We would all expect. I mean, we're talking, the unfortunate part, Steve, is that we're talking about kids here.
Yes.
We're talking about children, which makes
13,
it a very sad, reality. But it also has to be established that this is wrongdoing. It led to the death.
Definitely. Not just a case of bullying. It's a case of bullying allegation leading to issues of cultism in a secondary school. That is in a secondary school. That is major. It is. I mean, it's something that the school, the Lagos State Ministry of Education, will have to deal with decisively. Yeah, because it's a wider issue. Well, that's, on that sad note, we of course are. I think we've got time to also look at the Punch newspaper for today, Saturday, where the lead story says APC governors power blocks JOSTLE to host convention. Caretaker committee lists conditions for choosing venue. Party not in support of direct primary. That's attributed to assault. We know that this will happen. And the president, given the fact that the president has said by February, the convention of the party will hold. And it ought to, if you also consider the fact that for many years, more than 6 months that was projected, it's a caretaker committee that has been running the affairs of the party with a sitting governor, Governor Buhari, in charge. Courts have stepped in. People have said, is this proper? You cannot hold two positions together. So everybody's looking at February next year, where the convention will hold, and hopefully a proper chairman will emerge, and the executive members of the party. Why this is important is because it is believed that whoever has the sympathy or whoever is able to control in certain instances that we've seen in recent times, the party machinery will most likely produce the next candidate of the party.
Do you see that happening? Do you see that happening?
Do I see what happening?
Basically, come next year, what do you think?
Will the convention happen?
Yes.
Will it happen in February? Let's wait and see. If it does happen, I think it looks to me like the party is determined not to have an executive council that will be beholden to a single individual. That will be dangerous to democracy, especially if that individual appears to be interested in becoming the flag bearer of that party. But of course, in politics, anything is happening. And 24 hours is a long time in politics. So
anything can happen between now and then.
So we wait. A few other interesting stories into this punch. Cost of governance, restructure Nigeria into 6 regions. Budget office tells federal government. Why we can't punish those behind budget duplication that's attributed to the DG of the budget office, Akabueze. I think that's interesting that the budget office is asking the federal government, especially President Buhari, to restructure the country. In saying that, I think they are basically just reminding the president that this is the basis on which you campaign and the promise that you made to Nigerians. Would the president be able to do that before he leaves? Because by the new Electoral Act, the primary elections we hold latest in August. By the time a flag bearer emerges, you will see how the president becomes very relevant because people are looking at who will be the next president. So he has just about between January and August to do a lot more. What happens between August next year and May 2023 when he hands over will just be ceremonial.
Yes, and that's when we start to see very interesting turn of events because of this big window in which to execute.
Absolutely. Any other story from here? I mean, a few interesting stories. Omicron, federal government advises vaccinated Nigerians to take booster shots. We've discussed that. Demands 48-hour test result from inbound traveler. Acute Abiola serving 1-month punishment for ridiculing police. That's according to Navy, referring to the Instagram skit maker who happens to be a staff, an officer of the Nigerian Navy. He's been punished. I think he has now been released, from detention after about 1 month.
That was quite widespread across social media as well.
Absolutely. Okay. Which other paper would you want us to...
Because a lot of them are replicating or carrying the same stories. So,
I mean, is that good for newspapers? Talking seriously, I mean, you basically see everything, in the same thing in the same paper. In
a way, it shows that the most important topics are not being ignored. But that being said, we also want to have,
variety.
So many. I mean, I guess the editor would say, just look inside the newspaper, you'll find some more stuff. But
right.
Yes, also a very similar headline here as well. Insecurity, insecurity.
We're dealing with the Daily Trust,
this
right?
This is the Daily Trust,
exactly.
the Daily Trust for Saturday. Amid insecurity, North battles to keep children in school. So this now is sort of like a wider reflection of what we've been talking about earlier, an insecurity issue. We've had recurring issues around this from earlier this year with kidnappings and what have you, and unfortunately very rife in northeastern Nigeria and the wider north, so to say. School abductions, we read that every other day, unfortunately. And it begs the question, should we believe that something is actually being done? And I use the word believe because are we just, are we make-believing pretty much?
We're just hoping against hope.
Are we hoping? Or is something really happening?
I mean, for me, I commend Daily Trust, especially for its weekend editions. Almost every Saturday and Sunday, you have an investigative piece, especially on issues bordering on security. This is one of them. And you're right to say that when the media bring out all these issues every time, they've done their part. those who are supposed to deal with the exposés, the revelations that are coming from that, how much are we doing? Because we have read here that ISWAP is still, wreaking havoc, killing people, dead bodies are still piling up, etc. And we are still living in a state of fear and insecurity. How much more can we endure, really?
And it's, we just never know what's going to happen next.
Never know.
So really, it's pretty much a call for, so it's not just a talk shop.
You're right.
Really, it will be good to see what's really happening and how this can be completely curbed for the future. Anything you've got? Anything else there?
Yes, we can go to The Guardian. The Guardian is leading with, the lead picture is almost competing with the lead story, and they're not related in any way. The lead story is about the Omicron variant and how Nigeria is pushing against epidemics, which readers will find on page 2 of the paper. But of course, the picture, the cover picture, I think is about the experience, the concert by Paul Adefarasin's House on the Rock, which I believe happened last night in Lagos. One of the big musical events, gospel in nature, but certainly one of the big music events that you can encounter.
This happens annually.
It's annually. It's annually. Every December, that's what, ushers you into the Yuletide season from the Adefarasin gang, over there. Another interesting, entertaining story which The Guardian has on its cover is Imofe wins big at the AMA Awards. The AMAs held at the Marriott in Lagos last Sunday, where Imofe emerged as the best Nigerian film and won 4 other awards, competing strongly with a Somalian film, which interestingly won at FESPACO and then emerged as the overall best picture. What that says is that AMA has come of age, 17th edition, unbroken edition, and the fact that Nigerian-made films are also competing favorably. This is a film that has traveled, the world over, has been to Berlin Film Festival, also picked an award at FESPACO, and emerged as one of the favorites.
And of course, congratulations to the makers of this body of work as well, because it really has, like you said, traversed. It's really made a lot of waves.
Directed by twin brothers, by the way, and The Guardian with his studio, Guardian Studio, was part of the producers of the film, which is very encouraging. Actually.
Have you seen it, Steve?
Yes, I've seen it. I was at the what's it called? The premiere.
Oh, lovely.
Beautiful film. Not your
I'm
usual.
Yet to see it.
You need to. I think it's still in the cinemas.
I don't know why.
Not your usual melodrama. Heavy dialogue-driven thing. You will encounter Lagos in a different way. In this film. Very interesting. Very arty. So check it out.
I definitely will.
And who knows, maybe ultimately it's also coming on Arise Play. How about
Why
that?
not?
How about that? Exactly. On a few news items here. Why just jailbreak was successful. That's by the controller.
Why it was successful?
I'm giving excuses. Why? You're the controller. You're telling us why it was
because
successful.
That would be so interesting to know why it was successful.
I don't understand it.
Wow.
And on page 4, police officer removes uniform, flees after killing truck driver in Osogbo. That's page 4. Again, this is the kind of the NSAS thing that we are talking about. The police officers learned their lessons, even though they were also victims of bad of negativity during the NSAS thing, but they learned their lessons. Let us hope that, as we said earlier, true healing, can come back to Lagos and to the entire Nigerian space.
Absolutely.
We move on to Saturday Independent.
Also talking about the Omicron variant, threat real, devastating, experts warn. Already vaccinated persons may repeat jabs to tackle variant.
Saturday Independent. That's
Saturday Independence. Yes.
Right.
We also have here Nigeria yet to meet WHO conditions on vaccine production, which has also been another topic that we basically have circled around over and over again. Have we really met those conditions? Because on the one hand...
That part of vaccine production is so important.
Yes.
I mean, look at what...
Crucial.
Yeah. I mean, where's the 10 billion that was voted for it now? Have we started anything at all? Are we looking at... do we have a finish line, in mind so that we know that... Because it looks to me like this pandemic thing will not go away so soon. And therefore, if it will keep on mutating and there will be different variants like we have to deal with, how about us developing our own capacity, for vaccines, etc., so that we won't have to rely on handouts that will never be sufficient. And you see from what has happened, if a new variant, and they are always giving them all these funny Greek names, if a new variant comes after Omicron, and it looks like the booster shots, a new booster will be required. What has happened to this one is what will happen again. Those who are the producers of the vaccines will first take for themselves. We say we need more boosters to fight the new one. You are still struggling for your primary inoculation, you just have to wait. Yeah,
and great suggestion that you mentioned there. Like, could we look into our own production? But then again, it also begs the question: do we have the capacity to do that? Of course, some people will say it's a no-brainer. We do.
We ought to.
We ought to have it.
Yeah.
But do we really?
I know where you're going, Abby.
So many questions, Steve. So, I don't know, chicken and egg situation.
Absolutely.
But we know what the solution is. Is it within our reach?
Do you know that the federal government says that it has assisted in cushioning the effect of COVID-19 or dealing with COVID-19 with about 2.3 trillion, right? And I think that if half of that had gone into local production of vaccines and strengthening the health institutions, we won't be talking about, only 5% people have been vaccinated, etc. Sure. Get your priorities right. And then, like you're saying, what does it take to have the capacity? If all over the world, in the UK, in the US, you will find a Nigerian name in practically all the medical institutions that are doing well abroad. Just show the sincerity of purpose. And you will have people on loan, your own people who have migrated there, to assist you in getting this done.
Yeah, and because if we ought to, why has it not happened yet? Are we just not aggressive enough, or are we just sitting there being complacent about it?
Priorities.
Priorities, yeah.
All right, thank you. I mean, it's been lovely. It's time now for a short break. When we return, the morning show will continue.